Hey everybody, so this match review is going to be, I guess, a bit unorthodox because, I got to see the game live at Red Bull Arena. So I'm getting home a bit done with the traffic, a bit done with the heat, but ready to analyze and try to figure out what we can conclude from what was another friendly in the US against an MLS team with a ton of players playing, some of which who may not be with the team in just a week's time or 2 weeks' time. Who really knows at this point? And with seeing this team in person too, I must say that I did get to meet Julio Balde just briefly last night. That was a cool experience, as well as Xavi Puig, who is the director of the Femenino. So some cool experiences as the Barcelona first team has come and toured in the US. It's been great for me. But as I said, there was a lot going on about the match day experience. And in particular, I think the thing that stands out for me, well, let's actually just get right into it. Headline number one is in person. As I was trying to watch the match, sure, it was the fanfare, it was the stadium, there was a lot of Barca fans, very few Red Bull fans there. I think that comes with their season ticket plan, so they did come, not even begrudgingly, but to see FC Barcelona take the opportunity. But for Barca fans in the Northeast, this is their opportunity to see the team that they almost never get to play. And it was a reminder for me too that the last time I saw them play was 5 years ago. Very much like many of my viewers and many of the listeners of the podcast, we don't really get to see the team in person. So getting to see them in person was really special for the reasons that I was trying my best, and I was probably bothersome to my wife or the people around me because I wasn't really looking at the ball per se or what the action was happening, but I was trying my best to take in everything, the positioning of everybody who you won't be seeing on screen when those cameras are panning and following the ball. But as I was trying to discuss with the people around me, and shouts to the NYC Peña that I'm a member of and that I did sit with, they gave me some good conversation. I was able to have some back and forth with some of them, but the people going outside the stadium and coming into the stadium, well, not so sure about that. Again, that said, the Garden State Peña and the NYC Peña, of which I am a member, are two terrific groups, hospitality. And a reminder too, these organizations, that being the Peñas, that's what you want to join. These are the communities you want to be with. It's fine to just show up and watch the games in particular, but if you can find not even a local Peña, but whatever your nearest Peña is, joining these groups of people are the ones that you can have conversation with, have community with, and try to watch and enjoy the games with, depending on where you are. Again, location, I understand that not every place has a Peña, but it's been really cool, even for the Garden State Peña that wasn't an official Peña even a few years ago when I started the pod, and the growth that they have had. And now they're a full-fledged Peña and an important liaison for the Barca, that being the board members that arrived last night that we got to meet at Smithfield Hall. So again, headline one is in person, twofold. It's about actually getting to see the full match in total. I'll talk more about that. But part B is just the Peñas and understanding the communities that Barcelona is trying to foster around the world. It's a reminder for me, because I'm always watching here in my little studio, kind of shying away from everybody in the outside world. But it was a reminder for me that Barca is all about that community. It is all about that one family that can join together to enjoy this team. Even though there are some weird cousins and knuckleheads that I had to deal with in traffic as I was trying to go home, but I've gone too far. Let's get to headline two. Headline two is Gabi covers ground. Now, this is the in-person thing I learned. That Gabi, for what we see with him, his fight, and I know those watching at home, you saw his fight, you saw his bite, you saw his desire, you saw some trickery too, some fancy footwork that he had, especially in that first half. And Gabi is special. We know that, true. But I think what I didn't know from just watching on television or watching on my computer or wherever the stream is that Gabi is everywhere on that field. Busquets has his position, and I talk a lot about that rest defense, but Busquets is supremely disciplined. And so Gabi, he's not really, unlike when we first saw him come up last year, he was a 16-year-old even, where you felt like at times he was running around like a chicken with his head cut off. Now it seems like Gabi's a bit more mature to the point where if he made a move or if he said, I'm going to go to the other side of the field at this point to try to cut down this counterattack or get forward and stay on that right side, someone will cover for me. It seems like Gabi's positional sense has improved even from last season. And again, I could see that when off the ball, he was getting exactly where he needed to be to help the attack. And then defensively, he would get back to where he needed to do as well. So I was really impressed with just how much ground he covered today, from left back to even the right back at times, right wing. He was all over the place, starting at that left interior spot. And for me, more from Gabi when it comes to that. And the other guy I want to give credit to in person. So if you weren't at the game, you can't argue with me in the comments below. Eric Garcia. I've been arguing for a while. Progressive passing, he makes sense. He'll be a fourth or fifth or even sixth center back for FC Barcelona this season. So lay off a guy that makes only 3 million euros gross at the bottom of the wage structure. But I can report that even though he had that foul, like I always say he does, where the number 9 has his back to goal, 40 yards, 50 yards from goal, and of course Eric Garcia is going to foul him. But there was a number of occasions when he didn't foul in that situation today, as well as cutting out a bunch of attacks that, again, I don't know if you can really understand the positional sense and the timing that he was able to display. Yes, a Red Bull forward or Red Bull winger is not the same as a Champions League final or knockout stage caliber winger. Yeah, probably not. But his anticipation as things were building up to it, seeing in person, I think, again, seeing is believing a little bit in this sense, and he was just as good on the ball. Again, that foray he had in the second half, almost into the penalty box, really, setting up Ansu, and yeah, well, the goal scorers, we'll get to them in a second, and those who didn't score, if you will. But again, Eric Garcia, I come away having seen him in person. All this bias I have, just to warn all of you, I'm probably going to be even worse now because Eric Garcia was really good when I got to see him in person, and heck yeah, I'm going to be a little bit biased now because of what I've seen and what I know that he's capable of. Well, at least at this level of competition, which I think is very similar to what is the bottom of the Liga this season, potentially. Remember, the NYFC forward, that being Tati Castellanos, is likely going to be the leading goal scorer and the main number 9 for Girona this year. So I don't think the distance between the bottom of the Liga and the top MLS Cup winning team in NYCFC is really that far apart. 3 is wingers run wild. I was interested to see again, and I don't want to overthink this, but I also don't want to underthink it. It seems to me, and I could be wrong here, that Xavi would like Raphinha to play on the left wing. He has that left foot, and he wants his wingers to stay wide. He wants them to stay on the touchline, and with Raphinha's ability to cut in, he trusts his wingers to cut in when the time comes. He's not trying to overcross or have his wingers only be those crossing, or fullbacks have to overlap every time. We saw some of the best work, that being from Barca, especially on that header from Lewandowski, when Raphinha would push that right back as far and deep as possible. He would come out wide, Alba would fill in that space, and then that cross in to the half space that Lewandowski is making that run in behind for. That is a picture-perfect bread and butter when they're going to have to break a La Liga low block. And the same thing goes with Copa del Rey. Those low blocks, that is how you beat it. It's getting room and space in the half spaces by pulling out the width of those fullbacks and making things happen that way. Now, the Red Bulls did play 4 at the back as opposed to 5 or 6 like we'll see in the Copa del Rey or the bottom of the Liga. But onto the goal scoring, that beat Ousmane Dembele, who started on the right, moved back over to the left to make Raphinha comfortable. But that said, the flexibility and fluidity already, and I don't know how much we're going to see of Raphinha and Dembele together this year, as I keep putting them both on the right wing and then switching them out and having Fati on the left. But with Fati's health, his knees, and again, he's not going to be playing all the time. He'll be subbed out at times. We're going to see plenty of Raphinha and Dembele on the field together. And they're showing some pretty promising things. Defensively, Dembele was where he needed to be, and especially those horizontal runs that both of them are capable of, I think they can really unbalance a defense. And then when you have a Lewandowski there to poach or try to get a goal, it just leaves those back lines on the back foot completely sputtering. And the other thing that was interesting to me was Xavi switching them midway through the first half, because I thought Raphinha did pretty good on that left wing, and Dembele was getting plenty of the ball and seeing the ball and getting to the touchline at a decent rate on the right wing. So when he switched them, they did have more success, and that's how the goal was scored. Yes. But again, I was also puzzled as to what Xavi didn't like, why he would switch them back. That is the answer that I really want to know, and maybe he'll answer in a press conference. I got to hit those up. Or maybe he was just experimenting and he didn't want to stick with anything for too long. That makes sense too. 4 is Lewandowski Shocker. I have not seen the highlights just yet. Maybe I should go watch them before this comes out. I mean, probably you've seen them a ton of times and you watched it. But from my seat high up above in Red Bull Arena, I mean, some of those misses, especially again from my angle, it just looked like he had so many terrific angles on goal. And yeah, the goalkeepers kind of stood on their heads at times, but those are ones that Lewandowski last year is basically putting in with his nose or his ear or an eyebrow. He's knocking those in and they're going underneath those keepers in the Bundesliga or the Champions League. But there at Red Bull Arena, Lewandowski could not find the back of the net. And, people are starting with the whole curse thing, and Lewandowski is one of the rare examples. If this was happening to Ansu in the preseason, or Dembele, or Raphinha, or a Pedri, or Kessié, or Memphis, or Aubameyang, you get the point. If it was anybody else, I would be a smidgen worried, especially how this friendly felt like a friendly at times with the tackling and some of the shirt pulling, and again, things that you don't get to see on TV. It was a bit more physical, we'll say, behind the high angle, if you understand, the broadcast angle that they were showing. So it was a little more physical behind the scenes, but still it was a friendly, and you could tell that second half, that whole game, unlike the Real Madrid game, even the Juventus game, the subs came on and the tempo, the pace, the desire, the fight of that game, and it was the heat, humidity as well. I mean, they just come off 3 days ago playing in Dallas in that heat, so I totally understand it. But yeah, except for Memphis, who came shot out of a cannon, for, I guess, trying out for the team, a team that's trying to force him out of the club, the whole rest of everybody kind of went down, especially when PK slid in with that really bad, ugly yellow card earning tackle. When he did that, kind of felt like, okay, Red Bull are going to go into second gear, especially after they got the red card, and Barca are going to go into second gear a bit too. Then it ends with some people coming on the field, some pitch invasions. I don't know if that was shown or if you heard about that, but yeah, really frustrated, a lot of knuckleheads. So it was a weird feel leaving the stadium, but anyway, also weird because Lewandowski, all he's done for years now is score goals, and to see him not scoring goals in just shocking fashion, yeah, it's a little unnerving, but again, I am zero worried about Robert Lewandowski putting the ball in the back of the net. Talk to me in December when he's struggling or has 4 or 5 goals at that point. And the fifth headline here is no conclusions. I think that's the only thing that, we'll say, quote unquote, frustrates me because of how many players were on the field. And it was pretty much everybody I was excited to see. It's hard to extrapolate almost anything because even the guys that impressed me, again, Eric Garcia, Jules Koundé's arriving. So as much as I'm touting up Eric Garcia, he is still, again, probably the 5th or 6th competing with PK, who has done nothing to impress anybody, but we know the role that he plays in this club, so he might be 4th on that depth chart. That said, the center back pairing for Barcelona, yeah, Koundé's not here yet, but Ronald Araujo keeps playing right back. He played right back against Real Madrid, he played right back again against the Red Bulls, and he also came off the bench against Juventus. So he hasn't started at center back. So your best center back pairing, Koundé and Araujo, again, neither have actually started a preseason game at center back. At their level, I'm not too worried about them either, but I'm interested to see what Xavi's trying to do here with that right back rotation in particular. Is it Roberto? I don't think he's the starter. Dest didn't even play tonight. Is there no Dest? Does that mean that he's going to try to be sold? I mean, we know what the club wants to do, but we know what he wants to do. So yeah, what's Barca going to do at right back? Big question marks for me, because again, if Araujo's at right back, well, that changes the calculation, and Barca can. They have so many other center backs. I think Garcia is a better center back at the left center back position as far as raising the ceiling of a team than Dest is at right back. And even Roberto is at right back. You get more from putting Araujo there, even though he did struggle tonight. That must be said too. Was struggling with his passing. Just, I think for Araujo, he's got to go at 100%. And, friendlies don't really fit those physical, all intense, go after it kind of guys. It was just a weird pace of a game for him, and I totally understand how he never found it, but again, his passing, not too great either, even though everyone else was, I think, combining pretty well. So in that midfield, we've seen Pjanic on 2 occasions as the backup pivot. That even forced Nico to play center back today. So is that Nico is going to be Busquets' backup and Barca are trying to shop Pjanic? Or are they looking at Pjanic's salary and saying, I don't think we're going to get this guy off the books, even though he's willing to defer his wages to get a loan just like he did last year? Maybe this guy's going to be useful. And the crazier part is that Pjanic, now through 2 games, small sample size, sure, but we know he's a quality player. And he's been fine in that pivot. He moves the ball really well. He looks to break the lines pretty well, and he does that at a decent rate. And then Frankie de Jong pops it back in midfield today for the start. So I don't know if we can draw any conclusions from anything that Xavi did, especially in this game in particular. From the Real Madrid game, that's the one that I look at and say, all right, that's the formula in El Clasico. It's very similar to what he did last season with the pieces that were here, and he just added the new pieces to, we'll say, that El Clasico gumbo. And so the Juan Gamper trophy, I guess that's where I'm going to try to learn something. Is that where guys in the squad for this season are going to be put more to the forefront, and those who are on not only the bubble but expected to not be with the team this year, are they really going to be pushed to the end? I think that's for the Gamper trophy to decide, because the Liga starts in 2 weeks. So let's get Koundé in there, and let's get all these things working, including Lewandowski hitting the back of the net. So that'll be it. I don't want to get too repetitive with stuff, but yeah, it was really cool to see everybody in person. I think the players all look kind of what they look like. The only thing I'd say is Ansu actually looked a bit smaller to me, a bit shorter, but he does have that gait with his run, and boy, is he a talent. Same thing with Pedri. I wish I had gotten to see more of Pedri, but last thing, actually, before we go, Alejandro Balde, in person, he should be pushing that backup spot. I can declare that, having seen him now multiple times this preseason. He has been way better in this preseason for the first team than he even was with Barca B last year, I promise. He was hurt, he just didn't look like he was up to it, but he is so fast. Yes, it's against the Red Bulls, and what happens when you have a winger that can go at his pace. I'm wondering what's going to happen with his defensive positioning, sure. But Balde, that guy is a speed merchant, and he can definitely get after it offensively and defensively. He had some moves, especially on those cutbacks late in that game. He was pushing and he was pushing. So when the competition goes up, I want to see him tested. But certainly, I keep reiterating it, just like Eric Garcia, if you're talking about the bottom teams in the Liga, yes, Balde absolutely deserves some rotation minutes. So good on Alejandro Balde, and good on you for sticking with me for this one. And again, thanks so much to the Garden State Peña, that is the Peña in New Jersey and Hoboken, and the NYC Peña, my home Peña, for talking with me and enjoying the game with me. But also thank you to you for always supporting. Again, you know we have the merch store. I got this one covered in sweat today. Try to see as many people who could see me. And a few who do watch the YouTube and who listen to the podcast did recognize me. So if you're out there and you saw me today, hello again. And thank you so much again. As always, Forza Barca.